we head out to the Weishart Right, We Make It Right, Call Kyle Wright hotline. Cynthia Frelund of NFL Network joins us now. Cynthia, as always, great to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I was going to make some joke like, what? Myles Garrett's not a Brown, but it's not quite Father's Day yet, so I can't make dad jokes for my dad.
Well, here's the thing, Cynthia. Fortunately, you're dealing with two dads and one who happens to specialize in dad jokes, but that'll be for the next time. Yes.
Perfect. They're my favorite. The first game I had a chance to take my dad to in a stadium, we were going up to a suite. We were very fortunate. And, there's people during football games who work in the elevators. I'm with my boss and with all these other people. My dad turns to the elevator operator. He's like, this job must have its ups and downs. It was epic. It was epic.
So at my nephew's most recent party, I was telling my niece, who's 4 years old, a bunch of dad jokes. And if she laughed, she'd be like, you're the funniest person on the planet. But if she didn't get the joke or didn't like the joke, she would be like, you're not funny. And it had its up and downs, much like that elevator.
Exactly. You're like, geez, tough crowd here. Got it. Okay.
Now, being a Browns fan mostly has its downs here, but I do want to know, for the Myles Garrett trade, we were trying to quantify, what kind of trade-off are we really looking like here from going from Myles Garrett to Jared Verse?
Look, Myles Garrett he's a defensive player of the year. He's a very special person. He's not someone that you can easily replace. He's also a guy who's not quite as young as Jared Verse. And, a first-round draft pick going forward could be worth quite a bit, especially in a draft that, you never know until the actual draft starts or we get a little closer here, but it forecasts to be a very strong draft class. So if you're talking about how to build for the future and you're talking about, okay, they gave up a lot. Let's not be, unclear, but the sum of both of the things, the draft pick and Jared Verse, will be more than each individual part. It's going to take a minute.
Yeah, and I think we're prepared for that. What's interesting, though, is that I'm trying to figure out how long that's going to be. And then, projecting out how long it's going to take, there's a lot that comes into play. But for this upcoming season, Cynthia, what should we be looking at? If Vegas had us at 6.5 wins previously, are we still somewhere in that ballpark? Is it still just too hard to tell because we don't know who the quarterback is?
Well, the quarterback's really going to dictate a lot here. I think that's the ultimate question mark. I know this is going to sound strange because you had the defensive player of the year, but I think nationally the Browns defense and other positions wasn't as highly regarded as they actually were. So I think they were maybe a little underrated. So in general, this is a very, very good defense that, yes, you lost an elite player, but you also got an elite player. Maybe not quite as elite, but okay, you're talking about marginal differences here. So to me, whatever the Browns win totals end up being come September, it's going to really be who's under center. I don't think this really shifts it too much from the defensive side of things into the full win total number.
Cynthia, kind of following up on what you're saying here, what do you see as the difference between Deshaun this year and Shedeur from a win-loss perspective?
Here's the real question. We haven't seen Deshaun move in a while. I'm not suggesting that he isn't healthy. I don't know, but I'm not sure, right? And he hasn't been hit in a while, that's for sure. So what do we ask? I don't know. Training camp is going to be extremely revealing because we do know that Shedeur is a heck of an athlete. We do know that Shedeur, he has the ability to be very elusive. I would say one of his number one traits is making things happen when other things break down, for better or for worse. I think that's kind of what he's not going to, it's not for lack of not being an athlete. How about we put it that way, right? So I'm not sure what I'm looking at here. Training camp is going to be massive for the Browns in so many ways. In fact, I think the Browns training camp is going to be extremely massive for the entire AFC North because I think it dictates a lot of what could potentially happen in the division.
Cynthia, last year the wide receivers it was pretty bad, all things considered. Jerry Jeudy had a bad year, a lot of drops, but there wasn't much else beyond that. Harold Fannin is a tight end, obviously had a nice season, but if we're looking at this room, you add Concepcion, you add Denzel Boston, how much better can we expect this wide receiver room to be?
I loved those two picks. I thought they were brilliant. I think in other draft classes, this was like a sneaky strong wide receiver draft with a little bit of like flavor wide receivers, if you will, right? Like they didn't all have, like they weren't all like a true X. So you have a lot of guys like between Concepcion, especially like really interesting, different type. I don't know. I think that the sum of the parts is greater than each individual one. Like I think they were amazing draft picks. I don't think you could have gotten both of those receivers if it were a different draft year with, whatever constraints people believed that we had.
So it's interesting, Cynthia. Since the Myles Garrett trade, people have really just hit the thrusters on how bad the Browns are going to be this year. I don't expect them to win a Super Bowl. I don't expect them to be a 10-win team. I know I'm going on a limb there.
It's very brave of you.
Thank you. Please respect my privacy.
Somebody needs to give you security home. Do we need to
That's true. That's true. Saying this in Cleveland of all places, how dare I? But I do think they can be. I think Vegas, the last time I checked, had them at 5.5 wins. And I look at that defense. There's talent, and I do think they finally have the pieces around the quarterback to at least be somewhere in that 7 to 8 win range. What's the path forward for the Browns to surprise people this year, even if the surprise is only 7 or 8 wins?
It's truly as simple as who's under center, in my opinion, because I think that if you look at all the other things that were done this offseason, it was a very smart offseason. There were very good draft picks, solid free agency, all the things that you need to kind of get better. But the most important position in all of football is that for a reason. Right? Like there's a reason why, the Lions have a lot of nice pieces. We're just trying to think about up the road, right? And once they got Jared Goff, who is a good enough quarterback, I'm not going to crown him as anything like super elite, but he's a good enough quarterback. And in being that, then it changed the whole complexion of the team. That's all you need. You don't need Deshaun Watson fourth quarters when he was on the Texans with DeAndre Hopkins. You just need someone who is able to execute an offense, keep the ball. I mean, I will say Jared Goff with that O-line was deadly accurate, but he's not like this dynamic, rushing threat on every single play, So ultimately, that's the question mark. Are you going to be good enough to execute an offense that will let that defense eat?
Cynthia, this is going to be year 7 for Andrew Berry, and he's got 2 playoff games, 1 playoff win to show for it. It feels like it's just too few for anybody to still be employed after 7 years. But it's not only that, he's going to get this little runway here. And you mentioned some of the positive things that he's done, and I agree with you. I think there's been a lot of positives for Andrew Berry, but how does he stay employed for what could possibly be, 10 years before Browns fans get any sort of payoff, if it ever even comes?
Well, I guess the question is, how much was Andrew Berry the deciding factor for Deshaun Watson, right? Because that's, to me, that is where a lot of money has been tied up. That is where a lot of, potential value has been tied up. And I say potential value because we haven't seen on the field. So, and I don't think I'm going on a limb saying that either. But I think the question is how much do the ownership and the people who are making that decision and also the fans believe that decision was his or was a part of a past regime or was a part of whoever believes in, I guess the question is who's judging? So what do the Haslams think that he's done versus what other people have done, and will that be enough? I think that he has done a great job. I don't know who was responsible for what. He doesn't work for me. I'm not making his job description, but to my knowledge and what I believe, I think he has done everything he could given the ability, the rope that he's been given.
Cynthia, it's interesting. You look at the Rams team, with or without an unretiring Aaron Donald. It looks good. I'm just going to say that. More analysis over here.
About Aaron Donald unretiring is ludicrous to me.
Ooh.
Why? Wow, so?
Well, I mean, it's like, okay, you go get me Myles Garrett and Trent McDuffie and Matthew Stafford. Okay, I'll come back. Like, I would love to. It's good to be Aaron Donald, you know? These options are great options to have because I would love to be in that situation. Like, oh, come back and really contend for a Super Bowl in Los Angeles again, and then I can retire after this. Maybe I'll be okay. Maybe I could do that.
I would also like that. Just while we're clear. But again, everyone looks at that roster and says it's chock full of talent, and yet they have a butt ton of travel this year, and they do have a tough schedule from the just overall who you play. How do you weigh those two things? The immense amount of talent in a very tough road, one of the two toughest roads in the NFL this year, both literally on the road and who you play.
Yeah, your schedule makes so much of a difference. I mean, I don't think anyone thinks that the Patriots team that went to the Super Bowl this year was the most talented team, the second most talented team in the NFL, and yet they were there, right? So your schedule matters a ton. If you're going to have the schedule that the Rams have, you better go get lots and lots of reinforcement because that thing's not easy. Ask the Chiefs last year. That's kind of the same thing that happened, in part, what happened to them. But I'm looking at their roster and I'm saying, the question is, like everything else, number one, look at your division. Does Kyle Shanahan have a magic elixir that he takes and gets into like the mind of Sean McVay and beats him for absolutely no reason with one hand tied behind his back and like Christian McCaffrey and a pound of dust? Like, that's it. So the question is first worry about the division. Like, that's really all they can be thinking about. Now, I know I'm saying Super Bowl aspirations. Everyone's talking about it. You have that roster. How can we not? But they need to really worry about their own division because the Seahawks are pretty darn good. The Niners are okay. Maybe the Cardinals. Okay, we'll just pretend the Cardinals aren't there. But they still have to play like the Eagles and other things, right? So there's a lot there that it can get late early especially if you're not the youngest team in the league as well.
Our boss actually floated the idea of Baker Mayfield to the Steelers next year after his comments today. Odds of that happening, really odds of him being not in a Tampa Bay uniform after this season, in your opinion?
Here's my question. We've been seeing Tampa Bay feels a little bit like it's been held together with some duct tape in recent year. You know what I mean? Like since Tom Brady left, like Baker has had a good run. Let me quick, but it's like, okay, well, last year, I mean, they had Mike Evans out for a lot of the year. Like it was messy, right? So perhaps one of the ways that they move forward is if they don't win the division, they change a lot of things. Who knows, right? I think Baker Mayfield will have another act somewhere else. I don't know if it's next year. I don't really know what I have to look at his contract and like do a little inceptioning. But like ultimately, I don't think it's like that's what I love about Baker. He could go anywhere else. Like it'd be fun to see him, maybe not in a Steelers uniform next year because I think Browns fans would probably not like that so much. But it would be fun to see, like I'd be curious to see what happened with him somewhere else, like maybe out west or something.
Cynthia, we've been planning this conversation for a couple of days now. If we look at the last 10 Super Bowls, so we know this last one was Seahawks at Patriots. Yep. This is going all the way back to the 28-3 Super Bowl with the Patriots and Falcons. What do you think is the greatest Super Bowl of the last decade?
I mean, it doesn't get much better than that Patriots-Falcons. I mean, obviously not if you're a Falcons fan, but that one was pretty good. I mean, the Eagles beating the Patriots was pretty good as well in Minnesota. We've been spoiled with some good ones. We've also been spoiled with some, or not spoiled with some not so good ones. But I don't know. I mean, in Texas, in Houston, I don't know. That was pretty wild. Everyone like thought that the game was over and the Patriots were cooked, and then craziness.
Cynthia, I got to say, when it comes to the Browns, you're well versed.
Bump.
Oh, I thought it would have got it.
It was a good dad joke.
I thought you liked dad jokes, and it turns out no, it's okay.
Listen, I think Jared Verse. You need to when you interview him, you need to be like, "Are you well versed in the fine breweries in downtown Cleveland?" And maybe he'll get it, maybe he won't. I don't know. I like it though.
I think he'll leave the interview. I think he might just instantly hate us.
Cynthia, good stuff.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me, guys. Have a great weekend.
You too. She's so nice there, trying to make up for the fact that my dad joke completely fell on his nose. I thought I was in safe company. I thought this is a safe place. The trust tree with the nest. You didn't even give me a courtesy laugh there.
I sold it for you.
I don't think you sold it. I think
I'm the only reason why it didn't die on the vine, if we're being honest about it.
It died right on the vine,
We all let it sit and die on the vine. I go, oh, that's a good one. That's a good dad
That's exactly
joke.
what I needed.
That's what I did.